All right, so what happened?
Well, there's some recent drama.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Look, we need our own easy wins sometimes, okay?
So we got to take an easy one, okay?
Yeah.
Like Wizard tried to take an easy one.
That's
with
right.
the Monster Hunter Secret Lair.
Our lack of effort is only a reflection of the corporation.
Distraction makers.
Okay, but seriously.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about the Monster Hunter Secret Lair and kind of what it reveals to us about the Universes Beyond project generally.
We've seen the cracks forming already for IP crossovers and what that means for the game, but I think now this is probably the biggest ramification of some of those issues coming to light. Really quickly, we'll cover just some of the drama of what happened. So if you missed it, if you're not chronically online like we are, there was a Monster Hunter Secret Lair drop that was announced. There's 4 different sets that were going to come out, and
It's like a total of 20 cards?
I don't know.
Something like that?
Yeah.
I think it's 5 cards each Secret Lair set.
That sounds right.
Plus a soul ring, but...
Plus a soul ring.
Right.
Players generally were dissatisfied with the results of this. Some players were complaining about the art. Some players were complaining about how the art was used. So soul ring is a dragon.
It doesn't really make any sense. Yeah.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe it does. I don't play Monster Hunter, so I'm not sure. I'm just kind of going off of what most players were complaining about. The big miss here is that there was a misspelled card. Champion of Kotoko is apparently, I think, supposed to be Champion of Kokoto. I hope I get that right, Monster Hunter players. I'm very sorry.
It's going to be really funny when you also get that wrong.
I know.
It's pretty bad to get the name of a character wrong.
And I think it's easy to blame Wizards for this. Capcom also had to approve this. Just
it's a
so
good
you
point.
know.
They probably would not have revealed this without having ran it past Capcom.
Right.
They're like, we don't know the name of our own character. Whoops.
On top of that, apparently there's some people, Monster Hunter fans, that were upset with the actual depiction of the character on the card for Champion of Kokoto. And it just, I think something about like inaccurate lore with the weapons that they were using or something.
Yeah, and generally it also just seems like they just sort of kind of missed the mark on the things that are sort of the essential Monster Hunter things, right? Like they got the monsters in there where there's a bunch of dragons and stuff, but so much of the game is about like collecting different items and like what those items do and how you make your character builds, and then you go fight these monsters and things, and there's like no equipment in the set. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of connective tissue between like how equipment would interact with a class. I haven't really played Monster Hunter, but these are just things that I've heard about the situation.
I think if you compare it to the recent like PlayStation Secret Lair that dropped, it feels like a lot of those characters had really great flavor that was connected to the characters. That being said, they were also all mechanically unique cards.
Yes.
Which we will touch on.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in a little bit. But so as far as this specific problem goes, I do want to give Wizards a bit of credit here in that they did, in fact, admit that this was a mistake, and they pulled back on it and decided, like, okay, you know what? The Monster Hunter fans aren't happy. The Magic fans aren't really happy with this. I'm sure Capcom probably isn't too happy with that. So we're going to go ahead and roll things back. And as far as we know, they're going to go ahead and like do a redo, and it will another Monster Hunter thing will come out eventually, which theoretically, I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. I don't know if it's going to be mechanically unique cards or if they're going to lean more into more expensive reprints because, look, they're not going to be able to fail at this thing twice, right?
Theoretically, they could.
Theoretically, they won't fail at it twice. They could fail at it twice.
So why did all this happen? That's what we're going to be talking about.
Right. The biggest problem comes from, again, trying to serve too many masters, right? Where Wizards generally, if they're just making Magic cards, they get to make the characters, they get to make the cards, and those things just get to line up in the way that they want them to line up. When we experience characters in Magic for the first time, Magic has made that character and they're presenting it in the language of Magic. So when we're introduced to a new character like Kotis, the Fang Keeper, Wizards gets to define who this character is, and they're defined through their mechanics, at least generally speaking. There's a story that goes along with them elsewhere, but like generally speaking, that story is also going to line up with these mechanics. They're not trying to thread a needle between an IP that already exists and Magic cards that already exist and figure out how those two things can fit together.
Right. I feel like oftentimes if you're given the task of trying to represent an IP with something, right, the expectations of what players have that the designers are trying to meet is that you are handed over this large amount of characters, this huge cast of characters, huge cast of iconic moments that you now have to depict in these cards. And we're seeing some of the problems with that we're seeing more legendary creatures than we've ever seen before. And it's because you feel like you have to shove in all of these characters, right? And some sets that maybe are smaller, there's less characters, and that's something like the Avatar set that we saw, or the Lord of the Rings set or something, where I feel like there's not nearly as many characters in something like Avatar: The Last Airbender as there is in Spider-Man, in all of Spider-Man, or all of Final Fantasy.
What Wizards is attempting to do is translate an outside IP into Magic's language, right? Like what we're saying with these characters, like if Magic makes the character, they just get to define how it exists within Magic's language. But when you're using an outside IP, this is one thing that we had sort of speculated on when Universes Beyond was sort of first being made into larger sets, is that designers would have to sort of stretch their design muscles to incorporate these characters because they're sort of outside that and already exist. And in some ways, we saw some of that with things like the summons from Final Fantasy and things. But by and large, we have kind of seen them just lean on these sort of universal mechanics.
In any of these sets, in a full set of cards, you need to have workhorse mechanics, right? You need to have these mechanics that are there in order to make sure that the set still functions, generally in like a draft setting or something. And if you have all these iconic characters that you're trying to include into your Magic set, but you need it to just generally function, you can't have those characters be too interesting in order to make sure that it still functions for all its formats that it needs to be in. But you also need to make sure that those characters are so exciting that the people that know them and love them get excited when they pull them.
Right. And this, I think, is the real crux of the problem, which is that if there are no designers at Wizards of the Coast, or if the designers that would have this kind of knowledge are too busy with something else, then you're leaving up this translation that we're talking about from this outside IP that the people who watch that or play it or whatever it is love that thing so much that they're going to understand everything about it. You're sort of tasking a person who doesn't have that knowledge with figuring out how to translate that into Magic's systems. And that's when we get things that just don't connect, right? This Monster Hunter example is probably the most egregious so far of, look, I'm not criticizing the people that made the Monster Hunter set. I feel like Wizards, whoever has made this decision to create these Monster Hunter cards, needed to understand the resources that they would need in order to make this good. And I think that they just didn't do that. They didn't understand what was necessary at the time, either resource-wise or knowledge-wise. And good, at least good on them at this point that they went, okay, we didn't evaluate this correctly. Let's go back to the drawing board and try it again. It's hard to know whether or not that was a Wizards decision specifically, or a Capcom decision, or maybe a both. I don't know. It's
hard to say when Wizards decides that it's worthwhile in the budget to make these mechanically unique cards versus these functional reprints of cards, and that I don't know if one is more or less taxing than the other. Because honestly, I like you obviously have to test a card if it's mechanically unique to make sure that it's not completely broken. But also, any of these Secret Lair cards, it's not going to be like legal and standard, right? It's going to be legal in only a handful of these formats that are going to be available. So the chances of it being broken is like not as big of a consequence. But
if it's broken though, and players seek out the card,
right,
and it's a unique Secret Lair card, the supply of these is much constrained. We did go ahead and look up, like, what are some of these, the most expensive sort of mechanically unique Secret Lair cards, and we found that some of them are actually quite expensive.
Yeah. Top three that we saw, maybe not the top three, but some notable ones. 14th Doctor is a mechanically unique card from Secret Lair that is $120 right now. Jin Sakai is a Ghost of Tsushima card, recently came out, is $85, and Kratos, the mono red Kratos, is $50 right now. So the Kratos and Jin Sakai are more recent, so it's possible that it's just very popular. As a good example, like the Sonic the Hedgehog cards were a lot more expensive when they first came out, and have dipped down in price significantly. The 14th Doctor, on the other hand, that's been out for quite a while, and so the fact that it's only gone up at this point is pretty telling of what could potentially happen with these cards.
Right, and Magic has said, like, okay, we can theoretically reprint these, so if one of these Secret Lair cards is really getting out out of hand. Maybe they make an in-universe reprint. They're not going to be able to reprint it as it is, right? They'd have to negotiate a new licensing deal in order to reprint like the actual card itself. So they would give us something like, I know they reprinted like the Stranger Things cards or whatever in-universe. So they'd give just sort of like some generic fantasy flavored card that would somehow fit the mechanics. So the other thing that's a little bit weird about the Secret Lair situation is that Secret Lairs are sort of like, they're not printed at the same sort of velocity as a regular Magic set. Like these seem to be designed like tighter to their print dates. There's a window here in which they can go, here's the Secret Lair that's coming up, gauge response, and then they have a window to cancel it still. Or it's just that the price that it cost them to print these is low enough that they felt comfortable to cancel this before they were going to put them out to be sold. This definitely is like a situation in a Secret Lair that they could take this kind of a risk on versus like a complete set. Like we saw what happened with Spider-Man when they took this kind of a risk and the set comes out and just sort of flops. There's no way for them to like cancel that set and redo it at that point, right? Where a Secret Lair, you know, it seems to have a smaller window of time in which, it seems to have more leeway.
Not to say that this is going to become more of a common thing. However, if this goes positively, right, for them, this now sort of gives them the opportunity to back away in order to build up more hype and more favor with the community. That then whatever cards they come out with next, if it's like a slam dunk and they do a great job, because anything then is going to look better in comparison.
This is the Sonic the Hedgehog effect.
In what way?
This is we're going to put out the shitty CGI Sonic and everybody's going to lose their minds about how crappy it looks. And then we're going to go, whoa, guys, we saw what happened. And now we're going to make a better looking Sonic. And everybody's like, yay, we love Sonic the Hedgehog movies.
Right. Yeah.
That's you know what? I got my tinfoil hat on for a minute.
Okay, go ahead.
Bloop.
I have tinfoil.
What if they did it on purpose? What if? I'm not saying they did.
It sounds like you might be.
What if they did? They're like, we're going to put a little typo in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to be like, whoa, sorry, guys. Let's build up some good faith. Oops. And they're going to fix it now. And they're going to knock it out of the park.
It's possible.
I might probably cut all this, but it's fine.
No, go ahead. Let's get Wizards mad at us. let's spread some rumors and lies. Throw it out there.
I'm not spreading nothing. I said this is pure speculation.
Yep.
I know nothing.
I think most rumors and lies are pure speculation. Usually.
I don't know anything, but if I was making Secret Lairs, I might think to do this. What does this mean? What does it mean for moving forward?
It's hard to say if they're going to continuously use this as a potential option for them to back out, because I'm sure they lost money. Right. This is still a hit, especially if Secret Lairs are capped. They can't necessarily make more money because they sell them at MSRP. Right. Yeah. However, the reason that this might happen again is because the same way that we're seeing the cracks start to form in all these other IP crossovers for sets, not only for Secret Lairs, which is just that if there's going to be these functional reprints, you're going to run into these issues. Right. You can't have someone at your company that is a fan of everything. There's going to be something that someone is not going to be that passionate about that's working on an IP that people are really passionate about. And you got to try and lock in and know what players are going to be expecting and whether you're going to actually be able to fully align, especially with existing cards, potentially, to get players hyped up for that set.
Well, and like the super fans of these IPs can feel when you're faking it. And I think that's the real big problem here. I do think that there's this squeeze on design here, right? Which is basically saying like, okay, well, if they're reprints of cards that already exist, like you have to sort of be able to find these sort of flavor agnostic things within the IP that could just kind of line up, or we're gonna have to make mechanically unique cards that theoretically have too much, like a lot of scarcity to them, that create these weird ballooning problems in formats where if people are playing for the best cards and have that incentive to go make sure that they have the best cards. Right. Like, do we end up in a place where Legacy has to let people proxy cards because the cards are just unavailable? Right. Probably not, right? Like, there are unofficial tournaments that let you do that kind of thing, but like there's dual lands that cost $500 to $700 or whatever, maybe more at this point, where they're not saying you can proxy those. You want to play Legacy? That's the price of admission. Yeah. So the worse that this gets, the worse that problem becomes, right? And then people just can't even get into the format, which, I don't know, maybe Wizards is not all that concerned about people getting into Legacy at this point.
Funny enough, you brought up earlier, like, the idea at its best, right? The positives of Universes Beyond is that it forces designers to sort of stretch their design muscles, right, in order to try to tie together Magic and this other IP, right? But I actually think that these mechanically unique secret layers, as much as I'm not a fan for the cascading consequences that they can potentially have, I think that actually has given designers their best opportunity to do that, because they don't have to have, these workhorse mechanics. They don't have to have these ways of depicting these characters or these moments in unsatisfying ways. They can go all out with it, because that's okay, right? It's this small contained set. And I think that's why you can see some of these secret layers that are seen as really popular or successful, like I think the Sonic one, the PlayStation one that recently came out, stuff like that, where fans of those IPs were really satisfied with it. But stuff like this, just goes amiss, right? Because I think players, as much as I think a lot of veteran players in particular really probably don't like these mechanically unique secret lair cards. I think if you're looking at the majority of the player base, right, I think they like them. The issue that I see is that you're not allowing an avenue for casual players to have access to this, right? I had to try and explain to my friend who has never collected a Magic card or shown any interest in Magic cards what he would have to do to get the Kratos card. And so instead I told him, well, just buy it after. Like, just buy a single card of it afterwards. I don't know what it will cost. It could have been $200.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of a weird part of the model here, right, is that scarcity and FOMO is the point. I like the point that you're making too about like, okay, well theoretically, if this sort of secret layer cards are unconstrained and mechanically unique, you're right, they in that way can serve fewer masters. They don't have to serve, like, go into standard. They don't have to fulfill a draft format. They don't have to do any of that. They can instead just be accurate representations of that outside IP character translated into Magic's language. And I think that is exciting and interesting, aside from the fact that these cards are hard to get because they're scarce and all the other sort of like, collector capitalism problems that are coming with this. I don't know. It's an interesting idea to explore something like that in a different kind of environment where those cards wouldn't have to maybe even serve outside IP. Like maybe there's a different model here. It's similar to like an expandable card game model where cards come out in these really small chunks that are exciting and they're print to demand. They're not like, only a certain number of cards. Maybe there's sort of special promos or something, but I think that is a much more, I guess, ethical way to do this.
Want the secret layer format, huh? Secret layer only format?
No, not
minimum buy-in, $1,000.
Right, good luck. No, I mean like a different model that just is more like less. It's more fair to customers, I guess. Yeah. Right now this just feels a little bit.
I really don't like that they moved away from the pre-order model because I just think that's I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? I can't imagine running a company of that size.
Yeah,
but it definitely was not a move that's more fair for players.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, it was, well, we need to limit the quantity so that we can print these ahead of time to get them shipped to players faster, because I'm assuming they were probably getting a lot of complaints about how long it was taking for shipping, or it's just better for them to be able to print these ahead of time and be able to work ahead of schedule, which seems likely. But that's kind of what I mean with like this canceling of the secret layer thing. It is possible that they had all these all printed already. But because it's capped at a certain number, it's like, well, that print run probably didn't cost them that much money.
Right. Not as much as they're going to make, that's for sure. If you enjoyed listening to us talk about Monster Hunter and why it kind of did whatever, please feel free to give us a little like and a subscribe, maybe a comment down below.
You can hunt for our Discord link in the description.
Nice.
So you can join it.
That was good. And then wear our skin as armor.
What the fuck?
That's Monster Hunter.
Is that? Oh,
basically, yeah.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. You already did that. Yep. Link is in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.